All right, Rob Pardi. You like Rob. Craft the life you want. Woo! You have done that. Oh, yeah. So, how did you do that? So, when it comes to like the word control, what are we in control of?
Well, that's a great question, right? Because at at the end of the day, or yeah, at the end of the day, sometimes I confuse it with Italian, and I think in Italian now. Unfortunately,
Yeah,
I think
I
more in
bet. You're living
Italian.
in
I'm
Italy.
sort of translating into English, which is crazy. But so the only thing we can control is the way we see things. It's our thoughts.
Right.
Once we learn, get into that knowing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then we can differentiate because we have all those negative thoughts that are going around that, come from um, wanting to protect us or family or whatever the case is.
Right.
But a lot of that is not even true. It's not even valid. It's just something we assimilated when we were children. So
Yeah.
what's under our control really are, so I always tell people they should have a cup of tea every morning. And by the way, I don't like tea. I'm just raising my
Me
hand right
neither.
now. I'm a coffee person. Give me my espresso.
Oh,
But
no coffee for me. It's mocha tonics, chocolate crack. Okay, just so you know.
okay, mocha times. Okay, they don't have them here in Italy. Um, so very Puritan with their coffee. But so tea is
Yes.
thoughts, efforts, and actions.
Ooh, interesting acronym. Say it
Okay,
again. T.
thoughts, efforts, and actions. That's what's under our control,
T
and
is
that's
under our
that's it.
control.
There's an amazing woman named Edith Eger. Um, she's I think 93 now. She still gives TED talks. She's
Oh
a
wow.
Holocaust survivor,
Oh.
and one of her talks, she talks about before they went to, I think it was Auschwitz, with her family. Her
Mm-hmm.
mother said, um, "Nobody can change what's in your head," or something like that. And
Right.
it's the same thing, Viktor Frankl or a lot of other people. It is that knowing that those
Yeah.
voices, we have control over that.
Yes.
That's a huge step towards living an intentional life or crafting the life we want. So that's
Yeah.
control. Everything else is out of our control.
It's definitely the knowing part though, because like you can get brainwashed. Like we've got the Stockholm syndrome and all of that.
Yes.
Yeah. Whew.
Well,
There's trauma too.
if you think about it, I'm going to pull out that Stockholm syndrome for a second because
Yeah, I would love
it's
to.
actually
Do that.
in my book Possibility in Action.
Love it.
The Stockholm syndrome is all about you sort of get brainwashed, and therefore then your captor, the person that kidnapped you, becomes somebody that you need to be around, right? You
Yep.
just
It's a codependency thing, right?
it's a codependency. How codependent are we in the negative thoughts in our mind? There's a Stockholm syndrome happening inside our head.
Yes. Love it.
So,
Very good. Okay. Moving on to the word unique. So, like, we're meant to be unique, right? So, tell us more about when you think about that.
well, it it's sort of tied to the second one, right? But um, the uniqueness is we true diversity when it comes down to it, and I applaud all the work that's being done for diversity and
Oh,
inclusion and everything else.
yeah.
But true diversity is our mindset and the way we see things, and that's how
Yeah.
innovation happens and so forth. So to understand ourselves, once we get into that knowing and understanding that we are not here to be a clone of anyone else, because
Yeah.
then they should not put our name on a tombstone, right? It just should say clone number
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, right?
No, it should
So
have a number.
so we are here to express that uniqueness. And the thing
Nice.
is, we focus so much on imperfections or how we don't fit in.
Right.
But
Because that's
we
comparison itis.
Yes, comparisonitis.
Because we are human, therefore we are not unique because we are human. So there's the
Yeah,
flip of it, and that's where we get into trouble. Like, wait, yeah, I hear you.
but regardless of whether we're all human, as deeply as I'll get to know you, we talked about this yesterday. You are living in your own world. We're on the same planet, but you're living in a world that I don't understand because the work you do, the love relationship you have, all of that. So that's all part of that uniqueness. And
Mhm.
we're meant to stand out. We're not meant to fit in.
Right? Well, we're a puzzle. If you look at a puzzle and there's one piece missing, like we can't have a whole puzzle without you, kind of thing. There's no
Right.
puzzle without me. Oh, so that's where I kind of fit in, if you will. Yeah, it gets interesting. And you
It,
don't
it,
have to fit in. That's the other flip, too. Like we think, oh, okay, this is what I have to do. Like, oh, my family wants me to become a doctor. Well, that's what I have to do. And we've seen all the movies where that didn't work out
right.
or whatever.
But, and thinking about that, right? Like when there's this perceived pressure to fit in, you're actually betraying yourself. What you're saying inside is, I'm not worthy enough to stand out. And so I have to get rid of some of those pieces. And then you sort of live a fraction of who you could be.
Right?
And so
Because
then if
we're a
you are
puzzle,
a
too.
fraction, sorry.
Yeah, oh, because like I was describing this puzzle, like outside of us, we're also a puzzle that, the inside of us. And we have to get rid of all these puzzle pieces to go into the big puzzle, is what I was saying. Yeah.
You live as a fraction because you are ignoring parts of you because they don't fit in with someone else's expectations. And so therefore you're experiencing a fraction of your life.
Right.
And does anyone really want to go through life only experiencing a fraction?
Yeah. Just like we only use so much of our brain. Like we have amazing brains and we use a very small, they say maybe the word percentage even, because it's like you can't even talk in fractions. I love it. Very cool. Yeah. And then the idea of conform, like society is, whoa, and takes courage to not conform. So how do you see that one?
So yeah, and we've touched on it a little bit about standing out, right? But
Mhm.
it certainly does take courage because we are tribal.
Yes.
It is ingrained in us that we need people around us for protection and everything else,
Yeah.
because that's the way it did work. And actually, it
Mhm.
sort of still works that way. I live in this small little town of 900 people, and everyone supports each other. It's a huge,
Nice.
big family, right?
Yeah.
And somebody might give me, let's say, a cup of sugar, but the thought is that at some point in time, I may knock on your door for a cup of olive oil, right? So we're all
Yeah.
sort of sharing.
It's also
But
not transactional. I mean, it's just done
it,
with love. Oh, this is your
yes,
need. I'm here to fill your needs. It doesn't matter what they are, and it doesn't have to be this whole transactional thing. It's truly from care and love and connection, would you say?
yeah, 100%. I love the call out on transactional. It is relational. It's
Yeah.
100% relational.
Cool, cool.
But with the conformity aspect,
Yeah.
it's more not necessarily about standing out and fitting in, but the conformity is that you are supposed to live a certain way. This is These are the foods you should eat. This is the way you should think.
Yeah.
These are the books you should read. This is the linear path you should follow.
Mhm.
If we think about if I think about my parents, the 2.5 children and the white picket fence, and the woman was home. And I grew up in an Italian American family, so I can tell you the woman stayed home.
That's
the, the woman was in
right.
the kitchen. Okay. So,
I love it.
and that was that was law almost, right? It's like
Yes.
there's this linear path and you're supposed to
Mhm.
follow that
Yeah.
path.
It's dangerous to
Yeah,
be a
it is.
paradigm shifter for sure.
So
Proven in history.
the
Hmm.
courage comes from, what am I losing by following a path that I didn't define? That's the question to ask
I
yourself.
like it. Because we know what we can gain. We can gain protection. We can gain safety. We can blah, 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 blah,
And those are illusions.
Yeah,
Anyway, okay? My wife, 31 years old, you know, metastatic breast cancer back in the late 90s, it was unheard of. Nobody knew what to do with her because she was so young.
wow.
Now today, unfortunately, it's common.
Yeah.
But you know what? So that path didn't provide any protection. How many people follow the path and you know they will lose money in their lifetime, or there will be an illness, or there will be a natural disaster. And what about the tribe as well? Is the tribe always there? Can you
And are
really
they
count
always
on the
right?
tribe? Yeah.
And
So
do they really know you, like you said?
yeah.
No. Yeah. So be in a tribe that believes that way, in that kind of like open-ended way of, you know who you are. And yeah, Jenny Langren always says, where I end and the other begins. And in order to connect with others, it's all about like a curiosity. It's
Yes.
not about conforming, it's about curiosity. And
Curiosity.
if you're not surrounded by people who are just curious and they've got like all the right answers, you know, it's probably not your people. So I love it.
And I left investment banking and I moved to Italy. And, you know, everyone thinks, oh, well, the guy moved to Italy. Of course, he was an investment banker. He had money. No, I had a tremendous amount of debt. My wife's 11-year journey with breast cancer was not cheap. And
Right?
the other thing as well is she didn't have life insurance or anything. So I show up in Italy and I start teaching English for $8 an hour. My tribe told me that I was psychotic, that I was stupid, that I was ignorant, that I was, you know, and it was like, how are you giving up this job and this money and blah, blah, blah.
Right?
So, yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much.